muscles of the first layer of the sole. You have flexor digitorum brevis. This muscle lies deep to the plantar aponeurosis origin from medial tubercle of calcaneum, plantar aponeurosis, medial and lateral intermuscular septum. Insertion: the muscle ends in a 4 tendons for lateral 4 toes opposite the base of the proximal phalanx. Each tendon divides into 2 slips which are inserted into the margins of the middle phalanx. The tendon of flexor digitorum longus passes through gap between the 2 slips. And adductor hallucis, this muscle lies along the medial border of the foot and covers the origin of the plantar vessels and nerves. It gets origin from the medial tubercle of calcaneum, flexor retinaculum, deep fascia lying over it, and the medial intermuscular septum, and gets inserted, and the tendon fuses with the medial portion of the tendon of flexor hallucis brevis. It is inserted into the medial side of the base of the proximal phalanx of the great toe. Then you have adductor digiti minimi. This muscle lies along the lateral border of the foot. Gets origin from medial and lateral tubercles of calcaneum, lateral intermuscular septum, and deep fascia covering it. And it gets inserted into the tendon fuses with the tendon of flexor digiti minimi brevis. It is inserted into the lateral surface of the base of the proximal phalanx of the little toe. Next you have nerve supply of flexor digitorum brevis. Adductor hallucis is the median plantar nerve, and abductor digiti minimi is the main trunk of lateral plantar nerve. And action of flexor digitorum brevis is the flexion of toes at proximal interphalangeal joints and metatarsophalangeal joints. And adductor hallucis function is abduction of great toe away from the second toe. And adductor digiti minimi, its function is abduction of little toe. Then you have muscles which are covering the second layer of the sole. You have flexor digitorum longus, flexor digitorum accessorius lumbricals, and flexor hallucis longus. Origin of flexor digitorum longus is upper 2/3 of the medial surface of it is from upper 2/3 of medial part of posterior surface of the tibia below the soleal line, and it gets inserted. It forms the 4 tendons. Each is inserted into the plantar surface of the distal phalanx of 2nd to 5th digit. Then flexor digitorum accessorius. It is so called because it is accessory to the flexor digitorum longus. It has 2 heads. The medial head is large and fleshy. It arises from the medial concave surface of calcaneum. Lateral head is smaller and tendinous. It arises from the calcaneum in front of the lateral tubercle. And these 2 heads unite at acute angle, and it gets inserted. The muscle fibers are inserted into the lateral side of the tendon of flexor digitorum longus. Then you have lumbricals. There are 4 of them, numbered from medial to lateral side. They arise from the tendons of the flexor digitorum longus. The first lumbrical is unipinnate and the others are bipinnate. The first lumbrical arises from the medial side of the first tendon of flexor digitorum longus. Second lumbrical arises from the sides of first and second tendon of flexor digitorum longus. Third arises from the adjacent sides of second and third tendons of flexor digitorum longus, and fourth arises from the adjacent sides of the third and fourth tendons of flexor digitorum longus. And insertion: the tendons pass forwards on the medial sides of the metatarsophalangeal joints of the lateral 4 toes, and then dorsally for insertion into extensive expansion. And next you have flexor hallucis longus. It is the muscle of calf. It gets origin from the lower 3/4 of the posterior surface of the fibula, except the lowest 2.5 centimeter and adjoining interosseous membrane, and it gets inserted into the plantar surface of the base of the distal phalanx of the great toe. Now you have a third layer. Muscles of the third layer of the sole. They are flexor hallucis brevis, adductor hallucis, and flexor digiti minimi brevis. You have flexor hallucis brevis. It arises by a Y-shaped tendon. The lateral limb from the medial part of the plantar surface of the cuboid bone behind the groove for the peroneus longus, and from the adjacent side of the lateral cuneiform bone, and the medial limb is the direct continuation of the tendon of tibialis posterior into the foot. Insertion: the muscle splits into medial and lateral parts, each of which ends in a tendon. Each tendon is inserted into the corresponding side of the base of the proximal phalanx of the great toe. And you have adductor hallucis. It arises by two heads. The oblique head is large and arises from the bases of second, third and fourth metatarsals from the sheath of the tendon of peroneus longus, and transverse head is small and arises by deep metatarsal ligament and plantar ligaments of metatarsophalangeal joints of the third, fourth and fifth toes, and it gets inserted on the lateral side of the base of the proximal phalanx of the big toe in common with the lateral tendon of flexor hallucis brevis. Next you have flexor digiti minimi brevis. It lies along the fifth metatarsal bone. It gets origin from the base of fifth metatarsal bone and sheath of the tendon of peroneus longus. It gets inserted into the lateral side of the base of the proximal phalanx of the little toe. And now nerve supply of flexor hallucis brevis is median plantar nerve, and action is flexus the proximal phalanx at a metatarsophalangeal joint of the great toe, and adductor hallucis. It gets nerve supply from the deep branch of the lateral plantar nerve which terminates in this muscle, and action is adductor of great toe towards the second toe, and maintains the transverse arches of the foot. Then flexor digiti minimi brevis, nerve supply is superficial branch of lateral plantar nerve, and action flexes the proximal phalanx at metatarsophalangeal joint of little toe. And next you have muscles of fourth layer of the sole. You have plantar interossei, dorsal interossei, tibialis posterior, peroneus longus. In plantar interossei, there are three bellies unipinnate, slender muscle bellies. Tendons pass on the medial sides of the third, fourth and fifth toes. They get origin from the bases and the medial sides of the third, fourth and fifth metatarsals. They get inserted into the medial sides of the base of the proximal phalanx into the dorsal digital expansion of third, fourth and fifth toes. Dorsal interossei, you have four bellies, bipinnate muscle bellies, and fills up the gap between the metatarsals. And they get origin from adjacent sides of the metatarsal bones and get inserted into the bases of proximal phalanx and the dorsal digital expansion of the toes on the medial side of the second toe, on the lateral side of the second toe, you have first on the medial side of the second toe, second on the lateral side of second toe, third on the lateral side of third toe, and fourth on the lateral side of fourth. And tibialis posterior gets origin from the posterior surface of the leg bones and gets inserted into tuberosity of a navicular. And peroneus longus gets origin from the upper part of the lateral surface of the fibula and gets inserted into the base of the first metacarpal. And you have nerve supply. Nerve supply of the plantar interossei is by first and second by the lateral plantar or a deep branch, and the third by lateral plantar, that is superficial branch. Action is adduction of third, fourth and fifth toes towards the axis, and flexor of metatarsophalangeal and extensor of interphalangeal joint of the third, fourth and fifth toes. Dorsal interossei, you have first, second, third by lateral plantar, that is deep branch, and fourth by interosseous by fourth dorsal interosseous by superficial branch of the plantar, that is lateral plantar. Action, abductors of toes from axis of second toe, the first and the second cause the medial and lateral abduction of the second toe, third and fourth cause abduction of third and fourth. Tibialis posterior, you have tibial nerve and plantar flexus of the ankle. Peroneus longus is superficial peroneal nerve, everted of foot.